ask that it be shared today with the group. What a privilege it was to be a fellow missionary with Lester in Sierra Leone, West Africa, as he shared with many of us his friendship and wit, his humility and his wealth of knowledge and experience, his always ready spirit of hospitality, his example as a husband, father, his love for his neighbors, and his demonstrated commitment to the lordship of his Savior. Lester and his physician wife, Winnie, were a unique team, bearing results in a wide range of rural community development projects, improved farming methods, increased food production, nutritional awareness, preventative and curative medical services with major emphasis on the safe and sanitary delivery of infants at birth, along with excellent prenatal and postnatal care. Initially, Lester and Winnie lived and worked in the far outreaches of the Kona tribal people of Kiama, but for most of their years in Sierra Leone, they resided in their mud and stick home at Manjama among Mende tribe people in the more centrally located Bo district. Numerous words and phrases come to mind as one ponders Lester's work, experimentation and demonstration, distribution of imported Nubian goats for breeding with the smaller native goats to produce a strain of goats that would provide more meat and milk for the village people, chickens and egg production, pigs as a source of meat for non-Muslims, turning a small swamp into a pond useful in an experimental attempt to introduce tilapia as a source of fresh fish in the diet, and the planting of Asian teak trees in West African soil, and applying his skills as a surveyor when these skills were needed in the development of the church's outreach in Sierra Leone. In addition to his labors in rural community development, Lester served 2 one-year stints as the acting Sierra Leone field representative of the World Division of the Board of Missionaries of the Evangelical United Brethren Church, and provided exemplary leadership in that responsibility. Above all, Lester was an ambassador for Christ, Christ in action. Lester was among us, not to be served, but to serve and to give himself for the good of others. And this is signed Clyde Gallup.
Thank you, sir. Try it again.
Try again. Oh.
That's just what you have to do. You have to get it close to your mouth, sir.
I knew Lester late into his 80s when we first met, and I'm going to speak for a group we call the Ski Buddies. I think some of the Ski Buddies are cuter.
That's the Ski Buddies, back.
The Ski Buddies. First of all, if I could tell Lester one big thank you, it would be for introducing me to Winnie, because she is my friend, and we have a lunch plan soon. So it's the Ski Buddies. How can I explain what lunch was like with Lester? The crossword puzzle came out, everybody at the table would be engaged with this man leading us through a crossword puzzle. But the best part of the crossword puzzle was that it inspired us to talk about different concepts and cultural differences, and because every word had something going on, and we would stop and we'd have conversations. Lester and I shared a birthday, which brought us together for some parties. Well, Winnie and Lester, but we had many picnics up on that mountain. I don't know the name of it, but it was so beautiful. Winnie gets out of the car with the walker, takes off up the hill, and Lester and I are like, okay, I guess we'll bring the food. And she was long gone. Anyway, it's been a tremendous joy knowing this man. I lost my parents quite young, and Winnie and Lester have kind of filled a love spot in my heart. And I know all of the Ski Buddies would have something to say individually about how much Lester meant to each of us. But mainly, we love that crossword puzzle, and we love that man. We're going to miss him a lot.
Thank you so much for sharing.
WSU as well. When I first moved over here in the late 90s is when we moved into the church here. And it just dawned on me just now. He was asking me about this weed in the lawn, right? I'm a weed scientist. And I didn't recognize it, not from Idaho. We don't have it. So we were looking at it, and we got out his old copy of Bailey's key, and we were keying through this together. And suddenly, just now, it has dawned on me that he knew what it was. Wow, so he's teaching me now. This is a really good day. The second little thing I want to mention is we were up hiking one day. Did anybody hike with Lester? Everybody? Yeah, everybody. We were up just not too far from here, and we were looking at these trees out in the forest, you know. And there's about, I don't know, 3 or 4 of us were around this scraggly little seedling, sapling that's out there. We were, talking about all the different possibilities that this tree could be as far as identification. Lester's standing there, not saying a word, right? So we're talking about all the different lengths of the needles and rosin canals and all this stuff. He's nodding the whole thing. And so we all took our guess at what it was, and finally say, hey Lester, you know a little bit about forestry, don't you? What do you think it is? And he pipes up right away, Bradford. And we say, well, how do you know that? Are you sure? Are you sure? Yeah, we're talking to forestry guy, right? Doctor of forestry. Are you sure? And he just kind of looks at us in a kind way and says, yeah, 100%. Okay. So there's just one other thing. Well, we were visiting with Lester and Lindy not too long ago, and he brought out this round iron, well, circular kind of thing made of just angle iron. And he said, I wanted you to have this because we used to use this, for anybody's ever done vegetation management. You toss this out in there and then you can clip the plants that are within the circle, and that tells you how much is growing out in the area. It's a very scientific thing. And he said, when we were looking through some stuff, we found this and we thought you would want to have it. So he gave that to me, and I've got it hanging up, and we got a little hummingbird feeder sitting on it, and it's really nice. And so I remember that when every time a hummingbird comes by, I think of Lester. One last thing I want to mention. On every hike, and you probably have experienced this yourself, you like the hiking stick, and he would take the stick and he would knock some trash off the trail, old sticks and things like that. And I have learned over the years, and we do this, we do this now in honor of Lester. Every time you walk along the trail, knock a stick off. That's one less thing for somebody else to have to pick up. So I want you all to do that. And remember Lester as you're taking that stick off the trail so somebody else won't trip. Thanks.
So around 20 years ago or so, and I'm an old guy now, I'm 71 almost, Alice and I were with Lester in Monte Carlo. Monte Cristo, not Monte Carlo. That would have been fun. Monte Cristo with the North Cascade Institute. We're doing some geology stuff. And so we've heard today what a great teacher that Lester is. And I'm thinking, there's no subject too large for him to teach or too small. Because during that trip with Lester in Monte Cristo, he taught me how to tie my shoes. And so every day when I tie my shoes, and he's probably taught others how to tie their shoes, I think of Lester. And now I'm thinking, wait a minute, maybe he taught me to tie my shoes so that every time I tie my shoes, I'll think of Lester.
I have another 100% thing. We lived in Thunderbird forever. I hated those cedar trees that I was always having to vacuum up, brush up. And finally I asked Lester one day, how often do those cedar trees shed? 100%, he said. When I see a cedar tree.
Somebody behind you? Can I go into this?
Yeah, I've known Lester for quite a while, and a group of us, and a lot of us are here, we were going to all tube down the Nookachance River. And I was in front, and we came upon a log jam that was very dangerous. And Winnie was coming down, and I tried pushing Winnie off the log jam, and she went right under. And Lester was right behind her, and I said, Lester, you stay here, push people off, I'll go down. Lester says, no, I'm going down. Lester went down. A minute at least, I'm pushing people off. Puppy pops with Winnie.
Hallelujah. You left, second quarter by the.
I haven't had the opportunity to know Lester a whole lot of time, but I was always amazed by his wit. Every time that we would have a men's group meeting, he would kind of sit in the middle. He never wanted to speak first, but he was never last either. But as we went around and shared some things with our lives, Lester always brought laughter to the group, always. He had this amazing ability to see humor in things that other folks would not find the humor, but as soon as Lester spoke, we all saw it and we all laughed. So that was one thing that got me right away when I met and started knowing a little bit about Lester. But the biggest thing is, I started my career in music. I was a teacher. And I was taking Lester home one day from our men's group, and I have a satellite radio in the car, and I only listen to classical music. So I had this classical music going, and most people, when they ride with me, ask me to turn it down or turn it off. Well, Lester sat there for about 15 seconds, and he says, I like your music. And I was shocked. No one has ever said that before. Even my wife once in a while says, we haven't listened to that. We went a little bit further, and he said, I think I know that piece. Well, unfortunately, he did. And I say that because I didn't. And every time he rode with me, he would always name the work. It didn't matter what composer, it didn't matter what period of music it was. Lester always seemed to know the piece and the composer, and he would tell me a little about their lives. And so I was just absolutely blown away by this man's broad knowledge of essentially music, because I didn't have the ability to go walking with him in some of his trips, but a lot of them have mentioned it. But his knowledge was beyond belief. He covered everything, so I will miss him greatly.
My name is Lori Flores, and I've known Lester and Winnie and family here at the church. And I was thinking back, especially when Tim was talking, to probably about close to 20 years ago, we did a family camp out at Fort Evie State Park in the group camp area. And so we saw that there was this place called Lake Pondilla, and we were going to take a hike to Lake Pondilla. And so we started off on the trail, and we kept walking, and it seemed like we were trying to follow the signs, and we weren't finding it, and we kept walking. But Lester and Tim kept us amused, because as we're walking along, and our oldest girls were probably about, 6 and 8, and there were a lot of other kids there too. So he was showing us all the things on the side of the trail that we could eat. So here we are walking along, and we're finding leaves or berries or things that we can eat, and then identifying everything. I think that was the trip that Lester also brought his telescope out, and so it was a beautiful, dark, starry night, and the kids all got to look through the telescope. And I so appreciate that my kids were able to have good friends that were 70 or 80 years older than them. It's a wonderful thing. So I will miss Lester, and I just thank God for his life.
Thank you.
As you know, Lester was always an interesting person to be around and interested in everything. One day I had occasion to take Lester up to Susha Island for a day's outing. We put in a fossil bay, we explored some of the fossils in the embankment there, and then we started walking the island. And then Lester said, "What's that bird?" It was one he didn't know, and he knows a lot about birds. So I told him, he says, "I need to write that down." Well, he didn't have anything to write on, but I had a pocket notebook, which I always carry. So I gave it to him the pen, and he started writing down every bird we saw. Some were very new to him. I think by the end of it, we had compiled a list of maybe 80 different species. A few years ago, prior to one of their anniversaries, I found that notebook, and I gave it to Lester. I hope it brought back good memories.
I'm Debbie Grant, and years ago I had the privilege of leading the youth in this church family. And many years ago, when the kids were really small, it was my first go at being responsible for other people's children when we were out and about. And Lester had offered to take our Girls Fellowship group for their first hike. And I think we had about 10 or 12 girls, varying ages, definitely varying different physical capabilities on all of them. Some had been out and about, some had never been out and about. You know, they wore everything from cowboy boots to tennis shoes to hiking shoes to cute little unicorn backpacks, and we didn't know what we were doing, right? But it didn't matter. We were walking and hiking, and I was taking myself and my job much too seriously, and I was looking around. I was constantly watching to see how they could get hurt, or what they would slip on, or if they would fall, or what would happen. And Lester, we were just coming up this rock area, slippery, in my humble opinion, a very slippery hike to make it up to the top. And Lester kind of looked at me and he said, "You seem a little nervous. You know, are you nervous about the kids?" And I said, "Well, I am kind of." And I started to say, you know, she has this or she has that. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "You know, as long as you come back with the same number you took, the parents will be fine." He said, "I'll tell you what, you make sure we take the right number back, and I'll make sure they have fun while we're out here." And truly, on that hike, and every hike we did was with Girls Fellowship, Boys Fellowship over the years. As the kids have grown, I guarantee you, Lester made sure that they did enjoy the hike, they enjoyed the nature, they learned from where we were, and it was a gift to all of us, for Winnie and Lester, what they gave as far as love of one another, love of our natural world, and love of our church family that helped those kids and the rest of us come all the way through. So for that, I am grateful.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sure we've got some stories to be shared in the reception as well. So we'll do one more and then we'll continue on with this worship. Please.
I've only had the privilege of knowing Lester and Winnie for a short 9 years. In those short 9 years, every time you see them, they both are smiling and talking, and of course, as you know, you learn so much. I'm representing Skagit Habitat, and there's a lot of people here, so if you want to hear some wonderful, awesome stories, speak with them as well. It's just amazing. It was just the last house that he worked on was, he was 90, almost 91, and he worked many, many, many years on Skagit Habitat homes here locally. Talk about conversations during the day and during lunch hour, and many friendships. I know a lot of the volunteers, they hike with them and have just become lifelong friends. And one of the big things is smile, always listen. as well as to realize that you can do mission work here at home. I know many stories from them, listening to them about across the country and in other countries, but the reality is, as he always said, it doesn't matter. It's what you do every day that matters, and that's something I will always cherish.
Thank you, Teresa. Of course, over the years, Lester and Woody have experienced a lot of different pastors here at this church. I have one thing to share in a few minutes, or a few things to share in a few minutes from one of them, but privileged to have Brent O'Donnell here, who was another one of the pastors that served with them here at the church, and I'll give you a moment to share some of your memories as well.
Just real brief, I remember the words of Joshua, and one of those things embedded inside of his writings is one I wanted to share with you today, and that is, as for me and my house, we shall serve God. Winnie, I want to give thanks for you and Lester and your family, for you made that decision many years ago, and it made all the difference in the world. I find Lester to be an enigma, servant of God's, mind and heart, as expansive as the galaxy and the universe. And finally, resting in that sense of the greatest among you will be servants, and servants of all. That's Lester. And I might add, that's Winnie as well. They're a team, and you couldn't get them apart if you tried to. The last thing I want to share with you is that when I arrived here in 2003, it was a hard time. It was a big move for our family. And I knew I was moving into an area of tulips, and I knew nothing about tulips. And I talked with Lester one day, and I said, well, Lester, please help me. Tell me, what is an Irishman to do among the tulips? And he says, look at them. What do you see? And I said, well, I see red and yellow and white and purple, and they're bright and beautiful. And he says, remember this, Irishman. Tulips are mostly green. He said, get lost in the green, and you will be at home. And I lost myself in the green, and in his heart, and in God, and I was at home, for which I give thanks. From that moment on, I referred to him in my mind, and I will say it now out loud. Thank you, God, for Lester Era Bradford.
Thanks, Rand. I want to share some things. Another pastor that served here, actually a deacon in the United Methodist Church, William Rabbit's died, and she served here a number of years, was very active in working with the youth and families. And really, it was our hope that she would be here and be part of the leading this worship service. It just happened that she'd already scheduled to be out of town, so wasn't able to do that. But she did send in some things from herself and her husband, Randy, and asked them to share them. So these words come from Lynn and Randy Rabbitstein. We are among many people who will miss Lester's presence. He taught us how to age well and face declining health with grace, humor, curiosity, and dignity. We've known him over the last 20 years, his long and meaningful life. We appreciate his example of love and faith in action. He was dedicated to serving others and making a difference. Before we knew him, he was serving on the mission field around the world. After retirement at Mount Vernon, he gave his time and energy to constructing homes with habitat, tutoring students, serving meals in the community kitchen, and volunteering for the food bank. As we've already been hearing, Lester loved the outdoors and was passionate about nature and shared his knowledge freely. He backpacked the Olympic Peninsula, hiked Mount Baker trails, summited Mount Cruikshank and Mount Baker, and volunteered for trail work. He rode the ski bus to Stevens Pass and jumped in Clear Lake on New Year's Day for the annual polar bear swim. I think he had clothes on that time, but I won't promise that. His kindness and gentle way won friends of all ages here at the church. He led hikes for church groups of kids and adults, to Fragrance Lake, to Big Rock, to Sauk Mountain. And when he slept in the bed of his truck on the church family campout, and the hikes he led were one of the most popular activities. He knew how to engage all ages as he taught about the plants and the birds. To support the youth group mission trips, he and Randy formed a partnership and offered tree pruning for the youth's sponsored auctions. While they worked, Lester shared stories about his adventures as a smoke jumper, mountain climber, and his experiences in the mission field. He was always ready with a smile and hug, encouragement and wisdom. We will miss the sense of gratitude and joy he radiated, and all the wonderful stories reflecting a life of serving others with passion and with faith. So we do want to continue sharing stories after we conclude and go down the hallway. But let's go back to a song. I'll invite you to be comfortable to stand for this. And the number in the bulletin is wrong. It's actually 364, Because He Lives.
They call him Jesus. He came to love, he lived and died to buy my pardon, an empty grave, Savior lives. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future. My life is worth sweet to hold, a newborn baby, and feel of God, and joy that brings that promise this child can face certain days. Because he lives, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because I know he holds the future. And life is worth living just because he lives. And then one day I'll cross the river, I'll fight life's no more with me. His great victory. I'll see the lights of glory and I'll holy reign. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future. And by His word will be done. Because He
Amen. Please be seated. I just want to share a couple of other thoughts. Gee, I hope this is okay. I want to share a couple of things that you had shared when we talked. And Gee is another one of the people who got to go on hikes as a caretaker in the home. She got to spend a lot of time with Lester and Winnie and talked about the times that she enjoyed going out for hikes with Lester across the road to the path that goes down to the pond behind the Higgins. And all the way, of course, Lester would be saying, "Oh, can you hear that?" And let her know what kind of bird that was and teach her the names of all these birds. She was hoping he wasn't going to test her today because there are a lot of birds that she learned along the way. But I especially love, she shared her story of when they would go for a hike up the hill. There was a house they would pass and had these white flowers growing out there. And Lester would say, they would admire them, and Lester said, I think we should bring along the clippers one time and go and get one of those and take it home to plant it. And she said, well, do you think we should go ask them? And Lester said, no, I think they'll be fine. And so sure enough, one of the times they brought along clippers, brought home one of those flowers, and I understand they're still growing over at the house at this moment. So there'll be a tribute there every year to those times and that trust that, oh, of course people would want to share these stories. You couldn't imagine people not being generous, I think. So, usually in the closing thoughts here, I'm thinking of something that probably at this point has already really been said, and that is, how do we continue to celebrate this life? And as we've heard in a number of ways, the simple answer is that we do those things that we so loved about Lester. And we keep our minds open to learning from people of all ages. And we remember to smile all the time. What a powerful thing it is. That we remember to kick the sticks and other things off the trail as we go along so the people behind us will have an easier path. Remember to be kind, be patient, to always enjoy what life brings you, no matter what it is. Know that there is no reason to fear, but to trust. Truly, Lester is one of the greatest examples I've had the privilege of meeting of what it looks like to know Christ incarnated in another body. Truly lived his faith. It was important to him, but he never had to talk about it much because he lived it so vividly. You could see what that faith looked like, what it meant, how important it was to him. But he was also never afraid to talk about it. He rather enjoyed that and engaged in conversations about, well, pretty much anything people might ask questions about. So our closest thing we get to immortality is the memories that people continue to share. I tried to imagine this week a world map blown up very, very large so we could have pins in it representing all the places in the world that Lester would have friends and folks who would love to have shared memories today. It had been big, we'd had to have a lot of pins. We give thanks to God for, again, the choice that Lester made day after day, moment by moment, never having to really stop and think about the choice for most of his life, because it was the most natural thing in the world to live in a way that if Jesus showed up, he would just say, oh gosh, can we talk? Walk with me a little bit here, and wouldn't be afraid at all. So I want to share a final gospel reading, and it's from portions of John's gospel, and it's a portion where Jesus is trying to say goodbye to his friends, try to prepare for the fact that they wouldn't see him, at least not in the same way, any longer. So in the 14th chapter of John, I pulled out these parts of that story. Jesus said, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. Believe in God, and believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. If it were not so, would I have told you that I go to prepare a place for you? And you know the way to the place where I'm going. I will not leave you orphaned. I am coming to you. In a little while the world will no longer see me, but you will see me. Because I live, you also will live. I have said these things to you while I am still with you. The Advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all I have said to you. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. And I give to you as the world gives. Don't let your hearts be troubled. And do not let them be afraid." And one more song, and it's, oh no, that's not true. Never mind. We have this prayer of thanksgiving and a blessing to send you on your way. When we get to the sending on your way, I'm going to ask if you would to have you stay in your pews as we let the family lead the way out, and then we'll kind of dismiss people by rows once they are on their way down the hallway. So let us pray. God of love, we thank you for all with which you have blessed us, even to this day and this moment. For the gifts of joy in days of health and strength, and for the gifts of your abiding presence and promise in days of pain, grief, and struggles. We praise you for home, friends, and family, and for our baptism and place in your church, for all who have faithfully lived and died. Above all else, we thank you for Jesus, who knew our griefs, who died our death, and rose for our sake, and who lives and prays for us. Hear these words of blessing as we prepare to move out. Now may God, from whom every family in heaven and on earth receives their names, according to the abundance of God's glory, grant you to be strengthened with might through God's Spirit in your inner being, that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, so that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and the length, the height, the depth of God's love, and to know the love of Christ which goes far beyond knowledge, filling you with all the fullness of God. And the people said, Amen. But wait, there's more.
Just a word. My name is Jerome Chandler, and it was my good fortune to work with Lester on Habitat. And because he was 6 years my senior, I could never be the old man on the job. So he always updated me. And in fact, his health held out longer than mine, and I had to quit working with Habitat. I had numerous operations on my feet, and so I'd be relegated to my easy chair. And Lester used to come over, and we did math puzzles, as that mentioned. And part of math puzzles, he also loved to have little wooden things that you had to figure out how they went together. Well, my wife Celia and I went to see Lester just about three or 4 days before he died, and he had a trapezoidal box that contained six pieces, and the idea was to put them together. And he had made it. It looked like Lester. It was repurposed wood, but it was very accurate. So he said, of course, he was dying, and he said, when he said, I want you to have this, And so Lester gave it to me and he said, it's a regular polygon, but I'm not going to tell you how many sides it has. So that was one of his last words to me. 50 years ago, I told goodbye to a dear elderly man whom I admired so much, and it was such a pleasure to be able to say goodbye to him at the end of his life. And now, with Lester also, we knew he was dying. It was my pleasure to tell him goodbye and thank him for being a part of my life. And I said, I envy you, Lester. In a very short time, you're going to find out you won't need faith anymore. You'll know for sure. So it was a goodbye that I will treasure, because it's wonderful to be able to tell somebody that you love them and that you appreciate them. Not that they're memorial service, but while they're still around to hear it. Speaking of goodbye, this was a poem that Lester loved, and from one of his favorite poets, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it's fittingly entitled Goodbye. Goodbye, proud world, I'm going home. Thou art not my friend, and I am not thine. Long through thy weary crowds I roam, a river arc on the ocean brine. Long I have been tossed like the driven foam, but now, proud world, I'm going home. Goodbye to flattery's fawning face, to grandeur with his wise grimace, to upstart well-subverted eye, to supple office low and high, to crowded halls, to court and street, to frozen hearts and hasting feet, to those who go and those who come. Goodbye, proud world, I'm going home. I'm going to my own hearthstone, bosomed in yon green hills alone, a secret nook in a pleasant land, whose groves the frolic fairies plan, where arches green the livelong day echo the blackbird's roundelay, and vulgar feet have never trod a spot that is sacred to thought and God. Oh, when I am safe in my sylvan home, I tread on the pride of Greece and Rome. And when I am stretched beneath the pines, where the evening star so holy shines, I laugh at the lore and the pride of man, at the sophist schools and the learned clan. For what are they all in their high conceit, when man in the bush with God may meet?
Thank you. Thank you so much for making sure I didn't omit that. I was saying, it's one of the things that Lester wanted in the service. So we're going to start dismissing from the front here, so if you'll be patient, we hope to see you down the hallway here. So.
Are you want to have a spot back? Maybe close to the pictures? I'm gonna use this as your seat saver, Grammy. I'm gonna use the little gray jacket. That's your seat saver.
Very nice.
Hi, Ruben. No, not Grandma.
I know, right?
That was Linda. I wish I had known her. My daughter and some cousins and my son are online, and it's also going to be on YouTube. Amanda's been helping take care of Lester and Winnie for many years, for about a year now.
This is my daughter. This is Lester's son.
Thank you so much for coming. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
We've been working on we're being recorded. Yeah, and my daughter and son and cousin are online too.
Excellent. Nice. So they're able to share the day. Wonderful. Wonderful set of memories, and it just makes you want to go out there and hit the trail. Doesn't it? Makes you want to do things. Jump in a pool of water. Yeah.
There were nice stories. I didn't know a lot of them too. Very touching.
That's great. Well, it's good to see you.
Bearded sister and mother.
How's the crew? Is ice every out? You say good ice, huh?
Good ice will be about at the end of about 2 months. 2.5 months.
Caleb, Sarah. Lola and
I've already done my time on it.
Lola and Clinton are, I think, on still. I hope. I lost power in the middle there. You saw me run out.
Hi.
Right.
You mean Lorestin?
Lorestine. Sorry, I got that wrong. Yes.
Or is it Lorestin? Lorestin.
According to the school district automatic phone system, she's Lurstiny.
She's what?
Lurstiny.
Lurstiny. Oh, that's lovely.
Yes, whenever they called us about Lurstiny being late or whatever, it was amusing. Yeah. Exactly right. Right. Yeah.
Little Ethan.
I've got my son and daughter and cousin on there too, and it's being recorded. Thank you so much for that. That was nice. There's lots of stories I hadn't heard. But
yeah.
It's fun. Tyler Clark spoke at the eulogy. Longtime friend of
We're gonna miss
father.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you recording just walking around?
Yeah.
Better talk to this lady right here, Judy Littlefield.
Okay.
World's greatest administrative assistant.
Oh, you worked in the office with Ty and Lester?
She was the office.
You were the office. Very good. I probably met you a few times too, though. Yeah. Friends. Okay. Hey, so nice to see you. That's right. Yes, yes. Been here a few times. Thank you very much for reminding me your name because I'm terrible at that. Thank you. My daughter and son are on there, and we're recording it for other people who couldn't make this. And cousins and back east. He was very well done.
I think you kids have such a nice memory with your dad.
We do.
And your mother in the gym.
That was great. Thank you. Hi. Yeah, I learned a lot myself. Thank you.
Yeah, Randy Martin.
Hi, Randy.
Yeah.
Yes, nice to see you again.
We're on, yeah, he's streaming us.
Yeah. Your daughter and son and cousins can see. Gotta get in line for. Hi. Want to say hi to Lola and Clinton and cousin Faye. You probably met cousin Faye too. Gail, friends.
Never heard that you look like your father? Always like people in their 70s saying they're middle aged. That's a good thing. Hi, Julie.
I'm pleased, yes. I consider actually cutting down to a goatee like you have
For the occasion.
For this occasion. I thought that'd be too weird.
Hi,
You're in the line for food?
We are.
I'm going to interview a few people first. Hey, I'm recording a YouTube video of the memorial service. You want to remind me, Mark and Maud, but tell us your connection to Lester, if you could.
I got to know Lester in the Sudan. We were roommates in 1983 and did a lot of adventures there together, and then lucky enough to be living there together with him in the Seattle area. And did a lot of different trips. More to say on that.
And Mark and Maud, Dodon?
Dodon. You got to get the French pronunciation.
Okay, yes.
Lester would have that right. Yeah. And Lester and my mother were born on the same day, the same year. So once I knew that, I instantly knew he would be a great friend. And my mother loved plants and birds and all the same things. So there's some kind of connection there that was always existed. So this has been a great service, all the great stories. Did you record all those stories and everything?
Ran out of power halfway through.
Oh, yeah,
I might be watching that now.
Yeah.
And I missed Dorcas and Julie's.
I know.
So that was kind of sad. But till then and after that, I could go record them specially, make them
right.
Read
it again.
Redo.
Thank you.
Really great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Didn't say anything to YouTube. You've already said to the service.
Well, we're very happy to go to Lester's memorial. That's for sure. What a great man.
Right. And you are Larry McKinnon, I believe.
I do.
For our interview. Do you swear to tell the truth,
Church
the whole
of the
truth?
Good Life. Big Lake Church.
Big Lake, yeah. So you're one of the crowd of Big Lake buddies.
Yes.
Part of, I think Dorcas moved out there, but been good family friends to all of us for many, many years. You didn't know Lester before you knew Dorcas, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Dorcas was
landlord, right?
Yeah, Dorcas was an enigma. She was over in Asia with Chris.
Right.
And we kept hearing about her. She's coming home. She's coming home.
Right.
And she did. She came.
She did. And that's nice. Yeah. Nice to see her. Leave you alone. Leave you alone. Hi, Diane. Thank you for helping to serve.
Who's the guy you were talking to? In the suit?
In the suit, in the line, that's Mark Dodon. Was in Sudan with him.
Oh, he's not related to you guys?
No.
Looks like he sure could be. Now that you know.
Yeah.
Hey,
He said his mother, it's already on here, but he said his mother was born the same day to the day of the year that Lester was. So.
My dad was born in 26, December 26. So, whatever, 12 months later. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for doing that.
Thank you for
I'm in
helping
charge
out
of
with
ice cream, yeah. Yeah. You gotta grab one. The kids are in there. Gotta grab them.
For the record, Diane.
Diane Holyoke.
Holyoke.
Yeah.
Still okay.
Yeah, still.
Well, what is going on in here?
Air hockey.
Air hockey. Does it actually work? Is
Yeah.
it plugged in? Very good. Okay.
Good thing to be in charge of you.
Steve, you got to say something here.
What do I have to say?
Well, how do you know Lester, and who are you?
Let's see. We went to school together, Lester and I, and then.
Yeah, right. Steve Novotny.
Oh, take one. Take one.
Well, this is continuously recording.
Oh,
All
God,
the outtakes are going.
anybody.
And it's being broadcast now, too.
No, it's not. Is it?
Well, Lola and Clinton are on.
Well, Lester was a great man. I don't know who's going to burn my trees now, so he was always willing to jump in, and I would accidentally tell him that I was having problems with my trees, and he would come and solve the problem. So, and I would conveniently just pick up the branches and not learn a darn thing, so now I'm on my own.
Yeah, I'm upset I didn't learn more of the trees and things that he tried to teach me.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh, brilliant man.
He was indeed. Thanks.
All right, I'm done.
So, father of Hannah there.
I just wanted to hook him up.
Yeah.
Because he went to Yale. He was right about the same time. He was there in 48, 49, 50, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that overlaps.
And he worked with William Buckley on the school paper. So we clashed a lot, but he said
They might have known each other.
I know, that's what I
Tristan.
thought. Something.
Say hi to the internet.
Well, anyway, yeah, I thought, oh, that would have been great. He's a retired UW professor. I didn't know if you knew. So, yeah.
They probably would have got along just great.
Yeah, they would have, yeah. Great guy.
Thanks, Steve.
Reminded me of Lester a lot. Always a smile. Always a smile.
Thank you. Do you want to say anything on the video? I already introduced Amanda.
Oh, yes, that's okay. I didn't know that's what you were doing.
Sorry.
The live stream, yeah.
It's being live streamed.
I was looking like,
Why am I carrying around this computer like it's my dear buddy?
You were introducing me to.
My imaginary friend.
I thought you were introducing me to my daughter, and I was like.
Yeah, you might have known her already.
This is our family on the East Coast. Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't even look at them or anything. Hi, everybody. Hi. We miss you. We wish you were here. Love you very much.
I gotta get power again soon, I think. I ran out in the middle of the service. It was terrible. Hey, Greg. You want to be on the video? It's going out to my cousins and kids and.
This is Greg Carlson, if you remember me, Bradford family from the 1970s at First United Methodist Church.
Went to school classmates and good friends there, and you also remember the church.
Yeah.
So you know Lester through the church a lot too, right?
Yeah. I can remember, I can maybe tell one anecdote about your dad, Ethan.
Oh yeah, let me hear it.
You was at your house, and part of the decor for the Bradford family was a rusty old bear trap hanging from the wall. And your father got it down and he said, hey, let's spring the trap. He says, I think I'll do it with my nose. Yeah, yeah. So he's bobbing his head down, and then boom, the trap goes. So.
But he had a trick, right?
Yeah, well, I'm sure he triggered it with his finger, and then the nose was just was just a distraction.
Well, the trick he showed me is he did trigger it with his nose, so he probably did the trick a different way. When he did with me, he just bent folded one side up. There's nothing keep the trap when it springs will push them up. There's nothing holding them down before that happens. He just pushed one side up, and then so it's reaching in from the outside essentially. And poked it with his nose, and the trap went off. And so he can trigger a bear trap with his nose.
Yeah.
That's a great trick. I was trying to get more power here. I ran out of power during the service. How did you hear about the service? How did you hear about the service? I'm kind of curious how we got the word out.
I saw it in Sketch About Herald.
Oh, you did, really?
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Showed it to my mother, too.
Oh, good.
She's just wasn't up for making it today. She's at Rosario Assisted Living.
There are pictures on your table, those are keepsakes. Anything you want. There's also a card box collection over here on this. This guy needs to wait. There's rocks over on the table. And part of this collection, help yourself. There's so many questions. Right. And there is. There are extra resources there as well. And if anyone has anything to share with the group, the microphone is up here for now, and I believe Grammy might be around.
You have to use your outside voice. And we're recording a video. It's going to go on YouTube for the memorial service. If you want to say anything for posterity, come on up here. Checking the mic. A little bit louder. Not quite loud enough. I think I got it louder. These were left in the nursery. These are costume, aren't they? They look like costume. I think I'm going to shut this down instead of having hours of just listening to the room here. Thank you all for watching. Sorry for what I missed.